All right, now let's go back to Afghanistan. We've got Drew Sloan on the line with us. He's a fellow at the Truman Project, and we want to talk to him about what we believe Obama is going to announce in about 15 minutes, that he's going to put in 30,000 more troops into Afghanistan with about a 3-year timeline for an exit strategy. Drew, welcome to the Young Turks.
Thank you very much.
All right, now let me start with a very simple question of, do you think that's the right way to go?
That's not exactly a simple question, but I think my answer is basically yes. I don't think the real question is how many troops are put into Afghanistan. I think really is what is done with them. And I think that's really what we're kind of waiting to see. The talk is all about troop numbers, and McChrystal wanted 80,000, 40,000, and there's another estimate of 10,000. But really the question is what are they going to do with them? And so I think tonight we need to hear from the president what exactly his plan is, where he's going to put these troops, how they're going to be phased in, and what exactly it is they're going to be doing. And I have thoughts on that, but we have to wait and see what he has to say.
Well, let's go to that, because, of course, what you do with the troops is enormously relevant. But what can we possibly do with them? Now, I was in favor of the Afghanistan war until, I say this often, about a month ago, when then after the Afghan elections, I'm like, okay, so if we win, then we make the Karzai government stronger. Have we really won? What have we won? That's what I mean by I don't know what you would do with 3,000 troops, 30,000 troops, or 300,000 troops. Well,
you're right if you're saying that something has to be done about the Karzai governments, along with the troops. And I think tonight you also hear more than just talk about what the armed forces are going to do, but what also the civilian side of our international security apparatus is going to do as well. And so I think you're going to hear the president talk a large bit about what state is going to do and how they're going to integrate state with the military to build government capacity building operations. I also think that the president's going to announce that we're going to do more of a localized strategy, and that's really where you're going to see an integration of the troops, and you're going to get an idea of what is the troops going to be doing. I don't know, but I would assume that the president is very much aware of the issues around legitimacy for the Karzai government, but particularly the corruption that exists within the government. And he's going to want to. The planners have been trying to give him solutions about what we can do about that. And I think you're going to see more of a decentralized government solution being put forth in this new strategy.
Well, Drew, that brings up two interesting points. And we're talking to Drew Sloan. He's spent 5 years in the U.S. Army and served in Afghanistan. He's now a fellow at the Truman Project. One is this idea of pressuring Karzai, that if we say, hey, you've been a bad boy and we need you to be a good boy, that somehow that's going to work. I mean, it hasn't worked. Maybe saying it hasn't worked at all is a little strong because he did agree to a runoff, which then never happened, right? But now that we've declared him the legitimate winner of the election, and we're going to announce that we're staying there for many, many years, what do we have over him? I mean, it seems like we don't have a lot of chips to pressure him with.
Well, it may not be that he actually needs pressure. There is the option that what he needs is reassurance, and that he is not going to be left, high and dry, stranded in Kabul when we pull out precipitously in the next, year because things got so bad. I think when Karzai was first elected in 2004, that's when I served there. Afghanistan was relatively peaceful, and it was what we refer to as like the golden time in Afghanistan. And then it was just consistently abandoned for the last 3 or 4 years, in which we focused, probably rightly so, on Iraq. If I was Karzai, what's that?
No, wrongly so, but yes, continue.
Right. Well, in terms of what our military was dealing with, that had to be the focus, or we had to pull out of there. But in terms of what, so there's a lot to be said. There's an argument to be made, at least, that Karzai and the corruption that's been done is basically them ceding to their baser elements and kind of just, thinking, well, the Americans are going to leave, we've got to do whatever we can to secure power. So it may be that the reassurance of our presence there might encourage him, and through also feeding funds and efforts through the State Department and other civilian channels, to teach governance efforts, that it may not be that we have to pressure. It may be that once we alleviate the security situation, that the political growth kind of is free to emerge.
Yeah, Drew, with all due respect, not buying it. Because
well, I mean, if you look at actually what we thought about Maliki in Iraq, we thought he was Bush's own national security team thought that al-Maliki was too weak and could never govern effectively. And now we look at him as he's a fairly strong ruler who has somewhat control over most of his country.
Right.
So
Right. No, wait a minute. Look, he's a strong leader that does a pretty good job of crushing the Sunnis and will eventually get around to crushing the Kurds. So, yes, we get stability, and I get the upside of that. I'm not naive about that. But, there's a significant downside to it, too. And I don't think Karzai was sitting around being corrupt all these years with his brother being one of the biggest drug lords in the world because he wasn't sure, America didn't make him feel safe enough. And now that we have, then he's going to turn around and do good governance. That seems naive, doesn't it, Drew?
Well, I think that's why you're going to see the president talk a lot about decentralizing the effort and pushing power, more to the kind of states where, in a lot of ways, we can exert more control because we have the troops, stationed there and interacting with government agencies on a day-to-day basis. I do think you're exactly right. There's endemic corruption within the Afghan government, but I don't think that necessarily means that it has to stay that way forever. Right now,
okay, so how do we do that, though? See, that's the thing, Drew. Like, I'm ready to listen, and I want to be convinced of it. I really do. But I don't see how we do it, right? Because, Matthew Ho, who's resigned, was diplomat in Afghanistan, talks about what valleyism, right? Where if you go into their valley, they fight you because you're there, right? And they're fighting us because we're fighting them, and we're fighting them because they're fighting us. And he said, look, the Russians built hospitals and bridges and schools and roads, et cetera, and that didn't work. They just don't want us in their valleys. How do we get beyond that?
With all due respect, my experience with Afghans was very much different than Matthew Ho's experience, and that I absolutely believe in the valleyism, and that people just don't leave their area, but they were not at all, the vast majority, unhappy to see Americans, and there was a huge difference in how they perceived the Americans and how they perceived the Russians. The Russians did build schools and hospitals and infrastructure, but they also did some of the most horrendous aerial raids and bombings and just basically did a scorched earth policy over much of the country, mined large swaths of it. And so there's a major difference between America and the Soviets. I think the biggest danger that we have, and Crystal is addressing this in his new strategy, is that we have been too loose with some of our JDAM missiles and bombing things that have resulted in civilian casualties, and that has been a negative perception, or led to a negative perception by some Afghans on the U.S. military. But by and large, I think if you ask most Afghans, they like the American presence. What they're worried about is that they have to balance the fact that the Americans are here during the day and the Taliban are there during the night. And the Taliban isn't going anywhere in terms of in the minds of most Afghans. The U.S. military, they don't have that kind of certainty. So I think what the president's trying to do right now is to give local Afghans some sense of security that America will provide them the opportunity to kind of repulse the Taliban, and it will be there long enough to build up Afghan institutions to lay a more permanent level of security.
Okay, then we build up the Afghan army. We provide some sort of stability and security so that they can come to our side rather than the Taliban side. But I'm skeptical of that because we stay there 3 years, 10 years. At some point, no one's dummy. They know we're going to leave, right? And they know that whoever's there locally is going to stay. But in the best-case scenario, we build up another strong man in Karzai, who we're kind of trust and kind of don't trust, but hey, at least he brings stability. And look, these are scenarios that I don't even necessarily mind. I get that there's compromises back and forth. But one of the other things that I'm worried about is, hey, we build this huge, what might be a 400,000 man, and when you include the cops, Afghan army, and it's not whether they just trust us, it's also whether we trust them. How do we know they're not going to use that army against us one day?
Well, the bottom line answer is that you don't. But another answer is that with the addition of these new troops, that you will do what we did in Iraq, and that is integrate the training of the Afghan security forces with the American security forces, and through that partnership, you build trust. And just like we train armies across the world that could eventually be used against us. So we believe that by partnering, with foreign governments and foreign militaries, that we create bonds that last sometimes longer than the actual government that was in place when we started the training program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if things go the right way, or if things go the wrong way, you just spent $75 billion of American taxpayer money to build an army that one day you're going to fight.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, but I think if you fall down that line, then you could say we spent billions of dollars supplying the Mujahideen to fight the Soviets in Afghanistan in the 1980s. One, but then didn't spend the millions of dollars to do basic infrastructure programs that allowed the Taliban, that would have kept Afghanistan from descending into chaos and allow the Taliban to come in. And so there's arguments to be made that we could be spending $75 billion of the American taxpayer money and lead to a bad situation, or we could spend $75 billion and lead to a positive outcome. I have faith in the president that he has thought about this. He's talked to state, he's talked to defense, he's talked to all the international aid organizations, and this is the kind of the plan they've come together that will get us to a better place as opposed to the negative option that you're proposing.
Well, Drew, I like that you're more optimistic than I am, and
I think the bottom line is that Afghanistan hasn't always been a failed state. It's been a failed state for a lot of the time.
Really?
But in 2004, it was not. It was a relatively peaceful country. They liked us there. The Taliban was relatively gone. Or at least it retreated.
God, I wish
we ignored that for the last 3 or 4 years. And when I was,
but Drew,
now Drew,
but then wouldn't it have been great if we left then? I mean, Al Qaeda wasn't in Afghanistan anymore, and you're saying it was in a relatively good place. But then, I say that partly kiddingly. But then, if we had left then, well, then the Taliban would have come back like they did anyway. It just seems so pointless.
It would have been good if we poured in the appropriate amount of resources to capitalize on those gains.
Well, we agree on that. We agree on that.
In that situation.
No question we agree on that. All right, Drew Sloan's a fellow at the Truman Project, and he served in Afghanistan, and we really appreciate your perspective. Thank you for coming on and talking to us about it.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
All right.
If you like this clip, you'll love the whole show. You can watch that at theyoungturks.com.